Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome to Data Council Talks. My name is Wenyi, and with me is Alex. We will be your co-host for tonight. So we'll have a few questions for you throughout the session. Please give us feedback, first on Slido, then in Google Forms at the end. We want to learn how to do this better and find out creative ways to interact with you more frequently. So first question, is this your first time joining our events? Pop into Slido and let us know.
Well, it looks like we have a lot of return customers.
Yeah. Let's just give it some time. Come on, yes, more new people. Okay.
Cool.
Okay. So let's just move on. Sorry for the old timers, you'll still have to listen to this part. The way this goes is that we start off with an introduction to Data Council. Then we start the crowd favorite data dump session where we introduce cool and new things in data. After that, it's the main event, our data talk and Q&As. Also for today, we have a special post-event virtual hangout. So please join us and say hi. Alex will run us through some housekeeping rules now.
All right. So housekeeping rules. Feel free to ask any questions in the YouTube comments later during the speaker Q&A. I will highlight them. And please do answer the polls on Slido. This is how we can make this session a bit more interactive and to get more feedback from you guys. We really value you guys' feedback. Take note that this live stream will be posted on the EngineersMY YouTube channel next week. So if you have any of your friends who couldn't make it tonight, they can watch it on the EngineersMY YouTube channel. And do take note of the important links in the description box below. All right, so that's it for the housekeeping rules. Off to you, Wenyi.
Thanks, Alex. Also, a special thank you to EngineersMY, our sponsors for today's event. Now for an introduction to Data Council. So Data Council is a company that runs data conferences worldwide with 14 communities across the globe and their main conference happening 4 times a year across multiple countries. What's special about DC? Our favorite thing as well is that they are known for their no bullshit mantra. So do check out some videos at their official YouTube channel for some solid content. Though unfortunately, due to COVID, all their conferences have been postponed until further notice. So here we are at DCKL, a local chapter. Instead of waiting for the main event once a year, local chapters can have more frequent meetups like these to keep the community close and the fire burning. So thank you so much for your support and being with us so far. We wanted to use this platform as a means to level up our data community. So we brought together companies in KL to share their data journeys and practices. So last year we did 4 meetups, and we're grateful to have companies like Faith, MoneyLion, Red Ang Pao, Digi, and many others support us with their speakers and venues. You can check out the past events recordings at this channel, EngineersMY. So to cope with the new normal, we now have a virtual edition for our talks. Our first one was 3 weeks ago in April, where we had Brian and Jinsen cover how AI is used in design. So yeah, cool stuff. Hope you enjoyed that one. Our virtual meetups have a different format. It's a new format. It's shorter, it's more frequent. Because of that, hopefully it's more focused. Again, today we have a special post-event hangout, so do join us. We're still experimenting on how to interact, learn, and have fun together. That's why your feedback is so important. And leading into that, here's another question. Where do you do most of your data discussions or find out new stuff in the data space? Go. Let us know, because we want to talk to you more.
Send us your feedback on Slido.
It's the poll. Okay, so there it is. Reddit. Oh, okay, now it's moving really fast. Medium? Do you guys have subscriptions? I'm jealous.
I wonder if people are keen on Slack groups.
I'm surprised at Reddit as well.
Hmm.
I like this group. It's very interesting. I was expecting like Facebook and WhatsApp to be the top, but yeah, you're the right crowd. Okay, so moving on. Now Alex and our special guests will be taking you through our data dump. Alex, take it away.
All right. Thanks, Winnie. So to start off the data dump, so we have an interesting guide here, which is aimed at non-technical managers who have to oversee a machine learning project and team in their company. So this article mainly talks about the realities of doing machine learning in the context of a medium to large company, where you are tasked with building a large-scale machine learning project that takes on real risk if it fails, but stands to generate real value when it succeeds. So it's not your typical move fast and break things approach. Lots of nice insights here and diagrams. For example, um, the one here that shows that in a large-scale production system, the actual machine learning code is but a small part of the entire solution. So in overall, it's a very nice read, and some bonus content. Although it's not specifically mentioned in the article, it did remind me of another book aimed at C-level executives and investors called Prediction Machines by R.J. Agrawal, Joshua Gans, and Avi Goldfarb, which I've read before. And fun fact, Wenyi and I actually first met at a book club that I hosted. We were discussing this book like a bunch of data nerds. So, do
Like
check
such
it
nerd.
out. Next. So next up, we have a fascinating sharing by Masato Hagiwara, who is a freelance AI engineer. In this article, he shares his 1 year of experience as a freelancer and covers lots of interesting aspects of his freelancing work. So some highlights, including like he's sharing about how freelancing is not for everyone in this field. You have to be really good on getting paid by the hour. And he talks about the importance of time management. He talks about using techniques like the Pomodoro technique and apps like Freedom on his laptop and stay focused on his phone to make sure that he focuses on his work and not waste his client's money since he's paid by the hour. I mean, I think there's a lot of things that we can take from here as well, especially as a lot of us now are working from home. Uh, some techniques to help us to focus in our work. He also discusses about uh, on learning and personal development as a freelancer. So he argues that you often have to do these things kind of like on your own time, as you can't really bill this with your client. So, but yet you still need to keep yourself up to date with the field. And of course, there's always the obligatory XKCD comic reference too. So a great read. Next up, here's one from Facebook AI. So they've built an open source Blender bot, the largest ever open domain chatbot. So apparently, it outperforms other chatbots in terms of engagement and also feels more human. So the researchers claim that this is the first time a chatbot has actually learned to blend several conversational skills, including the ability to assume a persona, discuss nearly any topic, and show empathy. So the graph here shows how they've improved their chatbot by measuring how often human evaluators preferred their chatbots to human chats over time. So it shows that they've improved from 23% back in 2018 to 48% today. And they've made BlenderBot publicly available through their dialogue research platform called Parley, which you can go check out and download. They hope other researchers will be able to reproduce and scrutinize their results. So do check it out for those who are interested in chatbot research and tech. So here's one for the O'Reilly bookworm and fanboy out there. I count myself as one of them. So Starburst Analytics, a company specializing in providing enterprise Presto, has graciously provided this brand new O'Reilly book on Presto for free. You can download it from their website. A great resource for those who are interested in dipping their toes into Presto and who want a handy reference guide to it. Although if you ask Wenyi, she says she's not a big fan of the frog on the cover. Oh well.
Gosh.
And next up, so continuing in the tradition of the awesome lists repos on GitHub, this is an awesome curated collection of papers on fraud detection from a bunch of conferences dating from 2018 all the way back to 1995. This repo also provides links to other curated papers about graph classification, gradient boosting, Monte Carlo tree search, and community detection with implementations, many of them with implementations. So it's a nice resource if you happen to be working on or doing research related to fraud detection. Well, that's it for me. Next up, we have Naz, our surprise DataDump co-host, to share the rest of DataDump tonight. So off to you, Naz.
Oh, hello,
Hi,
hello.
Naz.
Hi, everyone. I didn't know it was a surprise. I thought everyone was expecting me. But yeah, hi. So let's go to the next data dump then. So this data dump, it's something about upcoming data tools and what they do not do. So in a data team, right, you have tools that you like, the tools that you use, and sometimes you want to get to find something that can improve it better. But sifting through all of this is pretty hard because there's a lot of options, and something from like more famous to like more obscure, but knowing and understanding what each of them can do at the grand scheme of things can be overwhelming. And this article basically have a twist in a way that it don't really go into depth of like what these tools can do, but it say what these tools definitely do not do in the real realm of data. And spoiler alert, DBT is one of them. So stay tuned for the talk by BK. So yeah, next data dump. So this is more of a application of data science in the public sector. In the UK, there's something called the Office of National Statistics. So what they do is they collect statistics related to the country. And in similar in Malaysia, we have DOSM, the Department of Statistics Malaysia. So they do surveys to get how our prices, our demographic data, our census. So Office of National Statistics UK have this kind of like organization called the Data Science Campus. And they have been supporting the response to COVID-19, particularly in measuring the economic impact of COVID-19 through non-traditional data sources and methods, which in terms of national statistics, they are considered non-traditional. So they do several interesting things. So for one of it is that they actually use shipping data. So ships coming in and out to kind of like create experimental indicators of the economy health. They also put up like business impact surveys and try to come up with, hey, how our business being affected? And they also web scrape prices from online retailers to kind of like see a more up-to-date price changes as the crisis unfold. And it's pretty interesting. Like I said, like seeing how data science can help in the public sector is something that's not really that shared and talked about. So I find it is very, very interesting article. Do check it out.
I think it's close
So
to your
the
heart.
next data,
Right, Naz?
yeah, it's close. It's very close to my heart. Yes,
Okay.
econs, public sector, you know. Yeah, so this next data dump, it's about models on how to integrate and put your data science teams. So a lot of organizations, they are quite eager to start their journey in building up data science teams. But how do you want to like put and structure this team? Like, should it be like centralized? Should the data team be decentralized? Who to hire? Who should they talk to, report to? So all of this like strategic decisions that an organization have to make. So this article was written by Pardis Noorzad. She's a head of data in Carbon Health. Used to be a data science manager in Twitter. So she kind of like analyzes like several more common models on how to put data science teams in organizations. So one of the models is a center of excellence model, which is quite well adopted even in Malaysia. So organizations like Bank Negara and Azure have a data science center of excellence, and then you have the consultant model, the embedded model, and so on and so forth. So each of them have their own context, their own strengths, and their own weaknesses. So if you're tuning in like a manager in data science and thinking of like building your own team, maybe do check it out. Or I mean, if you're a data scientist, just read this and maybe forward it to your boss. So next, and this is something a bit more lighthearted, as everyone gets stuck at home. So this one data scientist uses Streamlit to calculate the perfect and accurate ingredient ratio to bake sourdough bread. So what's Streamlit? Streamlit is actually a very convenient way for to create web apps, to share models, analysis, interactive visualization with Python. So I think some of you might be familiar with RShiny. So it's basically Python's answer to RShiny. And even internally in my own organization, we usually use Streamlit to quickly prototype our proof of concepts, our analysis. So share it with the business users so they can play with all the knobs, all the inputs, see what works, how do you want the charts to be before we actually like scale it up into like a proper web application, a proper data product. So yeah, do check it out. It's pretty interesting. He actually posted the Streamlit application live for everyone to play around. So yeah, do check it out. And it's very simple. I do highly recommend Streamlit, especially if you need to like, share your results quickly with other users and other departments. So yeah, that's all for me. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Nas.
Yeah. Thanks, Alex and Nas, for sharing. So we have one more question. I noticed Nas has a lot of like fanboys and fangirls. That's why he's a special guest. One more question. Have you used Laoyat forum style discussion platforms? Again, please give us some feedback so we know how to talk to you better, what platforms you prefer, how we want to continue data discussions in different mediums for the new normal that we have now. So yes.
Yeah. So to give you guys like a bit of context here, we're kind of like exploring the idea of perhaps even hosting a forum, so we are able to kind of communicate with each other like post data council events. So yeah, we would like to know what you guys think about this idea. If we get a lot of support for this, we may go ahead and consider launching like a data council KL forum.
Yes, so feedback is important. Okay, just leading into that, since we spoke about feedback. So just a reminder to fill our feedback form after the talk. In fact, if you have time, do type in the URL or scan the QR code now. So links are also available at the YouTube description. So now for the main event, please welcome BK, who's here to talk about DBT and how awesome it is. Hi, BK.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us from space.
Sure. So
must be lonely up there.
Yeah, it is. But at least I'm safe from COVID, so that's fine. Yeah.
Cool.
So hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I hope all of you are staying safe at home and healthy wherever you are. So I think I'll start my presentation. So bye guys, I'll be on my own here up in space.
See you later.
Today, see you. Oh,
Guys.
okay, relax. Space is fine. So today I'm actually very excited with this awesome tool, and it's called DBT, and how we use it in MoneyLion. So as long as my slides can come back up, there we go. Cool. So without further ado, let's begin. First, a little bit about me. I'm BK, and I work for MoneyLion, a US-based fintech company. I am part of the data engineering team, and we help to build and maintain data pipeline architectures that enables the analytics team to work more efficiently, even if things get messy. So to start off, let's talk about some motivation for using DBT. Assuming you're a data engineer, a data scientist, or a data analyst, a typical situation you might find yourself in is having a bunch of SQL code to deal with. This code can be long, complex, and a big chunk is probably copy-pasted, right? Worst of all, they are sitting on different computers. You're likely to have little or no documentation. If you had some, it's probably in spreadsheets, so that's better than nothing, but it's not very maintainable. But at this point, your BI requirements are still probably pretty simple, and if you don't have a framework in place, that's fine because things are still manageable for now. So from this situation alone, we can unveil some pain points. Firstly, having lots of SQL to manage and being disorganized makes collaboration pretty difficult. And this is exacerbated as your company grows and you have to build more and more analysis. With code alone, it's hard to visualize and link the links between tables. So it's hard to answer questions like, where does this column come from, or what does this table mean, without digging into messy SQL code. So finally, we have the pain of onboarding or handing over analysis if there's a lack of proper documentation. Of course, there are definitely more pain points than what I presented here, but I'll be focusing on these three today. So considering those pain points alone, we want to find a way to organize our code and allow for collaboration between teams. We also want a way to break down the complex SQL code for better comprehension. Lastly, we want a simple and easy way to document our tables for handover or referencing. Only 3 points here, but that sounds like a lot of us, right? Fortunately, there's actually a tool out there that can give us all this and more. So what is this DBT? I think the Data Engineering Podcast summed it up best by saying the Data Build tool is a toolkit for building analytics the way that developers build their applications. Essentially, it handles the transformative step of the ELT process while incorporating the good engineering practices. So looking at the diagram, raw data is loaded into your data warehouse, and within the data warehouse is where DBT does its magic. The core function of DBT is to help transform raw data using SQL, but it also has other functionalities like data testing, snapshots, and my favorite, data documentation. DBT projects was designed for use with Git, and this is perfect for version control. It is able to even log each run, which helps with debugging and has alerting features. The output of the DBT is the transform table, which is then consumed by your BI tools or data scientists. So sounds like a solution for all our pain points earlier, right? So why do we at MoneyLion think it's awesome? Previously, we normally materialize SQL queries like the one on the left using simple Python scripts. We tend to use a lot of CTEs or common table expressions in our queries as staging tables to the final tables. Plus, there's a lot of joins, aggregates, and complex transformation happening. And that's a lot of repeated logic across CTEs. And can you see how long this code is? I think it's about 500 lines long. This is fine. This is fine because the business logic itself is complex. But imagine if you had to make upstream changes. Where is this column from? What if something breaks? And where did it break? I could have sworn I was balding when I was working on this code, and this is just one code. Now, here comes in DBT. After migrating this query, we had a more organized model structure. We can see our tables relation, and we finally have proper documentation. So let's zoom in to see what I mean. This is how we can visualize the relation between tables. The green ones on the left are source tables, and the final tables are to the right. Remember, this was just for one query used to build one table. Imagine handing over a bunch of plain text query like this without using DBT to someone new. I hope your company has an emotional support helpline because they're going to need it on top of this COVID situation. Instead of CTEs, DBT uses this thing called data models. It is essentially the same idea as CTEs. As data models, you can organize it in folders, and when DBT runs, it goes through each folder and map out its linkages, as long as you define it well. Using data models, you can help reduce this thing called cognitive overload. This means that previously when you look at long and complex queries, you had to figure out where and what this query does and remember where this links to. However, with dbt and data model, it practically breaks down the complexity and clearly shows the linkage with proper documentation. dbt extracts away the process needed to create sleek and well-designed documentation, so you don't have to worry about things like page layout, margins, and whatnot. This is generated using a YAML file that you can configure, which is actually quite basic, but the results are great. The data dictionary also keeps track of tests that you can ask dbt to run on your tables. Tests like column uniqueness or non-null rows. More on all this later. But the best part is that whatever I've shown so far, dbt does this automatically for us. All we need to do is configure. So those were just some of the reasons why we at MoneyLion like dbt. It saves us a lot of time, effort, and headaches. Now let's see how we can use dbt to solve our pain points earlier by going into some details and to get a little bit technical. This is, after all, a data council talk, right? Recall that our first pain point was on being disorganized. For example, storing your code in text files or sharing them in emails or messengers. You will definitely lose track of your code this way, and collaboration in this state is going to be tough. So our solution is to use dbt with GitHub. This solution isn't strictly a dbt feature, but the dbt projects you will create is structured in a way that works well with Git. In our case, we use GitHub, and with this, there are transparency to code, so we know what changes are made and by whom. The version controlling allows us to roll back any unintended changes, or just to track historical change. With this, it's so much easier to share and collaborate with our colleagues. In a way, dbt structure forces you to get organized, but that's a good thing. To see what I mean, right now, MoneyLion has 4 main dbt projects for 4 different divisions sitting in the same main repository. There's no right or wrong way of doing this, so we can have dedicated repository for each project, but that's extra management. So having our project in one repo works for us now. And right now, we have about 12 people, both data engineers and data scientists, who have contributed thus far to their respective projects. And this number is gradually growing. So I was talking about the structure of dbt and how it helps keeps things organized. On the left is a typical dbt project template. Notice how neat and intuitively named these directories are. However, the main folder you as an analyst will be spending most of your time in is the models directory. In MoneyLion, we break down this models directory into source, base, staging, and the core directories, as shown on the right. Each directories will contain its respective model SQL, as well as the documentation YAML files. Again, there's no correct way of structuring this folder. In fact, you can dump one single SQL or YAML file and dbt will still work. But that's not taking advantage of the data model concept, which I think is the core of dbt. So another common pain point is having long and complex SQL queries. This really makes it hard to understand the code or visualize table relationships. Also, it can be slow and hard to debug, or you have a lot of duplicate CTEs sitting across multiple scripts. So whenever you need to make logical change, you have to make the same change across all the scripts. And that's time consuming. And sometimes you might even miss 1 or 2 scripts. With dbt, they encourage you to break down your queries into small and digestible select statements using the data model concept. And with this concept, you can reduce the cognitive load, make it easier to debug, and this encourages the code reusability. With those models, you can actually apply this thing called macros within them. Macros are essentially functions which can help keep your codes dry. So let's see some examples to understand better. On the left is a typical SQL query with multiple CTEs and the final select statement to join them. On the right is how it would look like when we break it down into data models. The first and second CTEs are now just select statements in SQL files, while the final table joins the two cities by referring to them using this thing called Jinja templating language. Don't worry, see the two curly brackets there? That's an expression in Jinja. I won't go into too much details on Jinja because that's a whole different topic, but all you need to know is just how to use it. So we've just broken down a long query into 3 smaller and digestible models. Guess what? You can reuse this model in other models too. So all you need to do is make one change and it should be consistently applied across downstream models. Imagine the amount of time and headache you can save. In MoneyLion, we practice breaking down our queries into base, staging, and fact or core models. This is identifiable by its prefixes. We do this because so that we can actually tell the high-level purposes of each model at a glance. Base models basically contain simple transformation like renaming our columns or casting columns to their correct type. So just simple transformations. Staging models, on the other hand, contains most of the complex transformative logic, such as multiple case when statements, or even window functions such as row number. Finally, we have this thing called fact or core model, which ties them all together, all the intermediate staging tables using joins. And this is the final and main table that analysts will be using. In terms of how we materialize these models in our database or data warehouse, fact models are materialized as tables because it will be queried on the most. So we can apply this or sort keys for better performances. As for the staging models, we materialize them as views because it's normally used for checking purposes. So we don't need it to take up storage. And base tables are simple transformations, so it's normally materialized as ephemerals, which are just a fancy way of putting cities. Again, these are the standards we are currently practicing in MoneyLion. There is no right or wrong way of doing this, and it can change on a case-to-case basis. Another game changer, I think, that DBT offers is the ability to use macros, and we at MoneyLion use it a lot. This is a little bit oversimplified, but you can think of macros as functions. For example, we have a case and when statement here, which I want to turn into a macro. Again, we will have to use the Jinja to define macros as shown on the right. In this case, we call our macro POS. Then we use Jinja's curly bracket to apply that macro within a model. Again, you just have to know how to use it. Similar to models, you can reuse this macro across different models too, and this keeps your code dry. And when it comes to making changes across multiple scripts, you only need to change the logic in one place. And this is how clean your code can look when it's dry. And dry, if you don't know by now, means don't repeat yourself. Plus, think of all the fancy things you can do with macros. I'll leave you to do your exploration, but we love it. The final pain point we want to address today is the lack of documentation. Without good documentation, it can be time-consuming for onboarding or handing over of existing analysis. Or the fact that you have to scramble to look for answers whenever your upper management comes asking you questions on tables or charts. For me, good documentation really saves me a ton of headache when revisiting code 3 to 6 months down the road, or even 1 to 2 weeks from now. With DBT, they offer us a great solution with its built-in data documentation website. DBT can generate static websites, which are pretty sleek and have very nice user interface. You can use it to visualize your model lineage, as you've seen before, if you broke it down. Plus, you can even automate testing using DBT in the same configuration file. More on this later. Here's what I mean. Previously, if you had some documentation, it would probably be in spreadsheets or similar. So that's great. But with DBT, all you need to do is to populate a YAML file. It's all done in this intuitive YAML file shown on the right. The output of this YAML file is this slick website, which is nicely formatted, and it presents the information in a nice manner. You can see the table and column details, including description and the tests that are applied on the columns. Now, not only can you define the data dictionary within the YAML file, but it is also used to define data checks for specific columns, as shown on the left. Here, we use the built-in tests, such as checking the ID column for uniqueness and null rows. At the bottom, we can even check for categorical values. In our case, we are making sure that city column should only contain values that we specify. Oh, and did I mention that you can actually define your own custom test too? And to run this test, all you have to do is just pull up the CLI or your command line interface and type dbt test. dbt will automate all the checks and return the results whether it passed, failed, or won. Lastly, I think you've seen it many times before. dbt can translate your model lineage visually as long as you break it down, and this is great for knowing how your table is formed and where your data is coming from. So at this point, we have seen what dbt can offer and how we can use it to solve our 3 pain points. So we have set up our dbt project, and now it's time to automate and get it production ready. We begin by asking these questions. How do we get people to contribute? How do we automate the transformation pipeline? And where do I put the documentation website? Pretty valid questions. Here in MoneyLion, this will be the high-level development and deployment flow for our dbt projects. First, the data scientists or data analysts start off by forking the main repositories. This ensures that any changes that they make won't break the production code unless the data engineers allows it. They then make the changes on a branch, commit those changes, and then create a pull request. At this point, the CI/CD tool that we use will automatically check the code for any errors. CI/CD here means continuous integration and continuous deployment. If they pass those checks, the data engineers, will check for code efficiency before merging, and then allow the merge to apply on the main repository. The CI/CD tool will automatically pick up the changes and reflect this on the servers. This way, the data scientists and data analysts can contribute to existing dbt projects, and the changes will be automatically reflected. Now, we have the code sitting on the server, but we need a way to automatically execute those code. In MoneyLion, Airflow is our main workflow orchestration in the data engineering team. At scheduled intervals, Airflow will execute the dbt run command, which will materialize the transform table in our data warehouse, which is then ready to be used in the BI tools for charts and dashboards. After each run, we can also run the dbt test command to make sure that our tables are behaving correctly. We even set up Slack alerts for when something fails. The dbt depths at the beginning is just installing or updating dbt dependencies. Now, as for the documentation website, since it's a static website, it makes hosting pretty simple actually. And yes, you can actually host it on S3. That is how we currently do it in MoneyLion. All you need to do is copy the 4 files that dbt generates into the S3 bucket. Then set up a routing to the S3 bucket using AWS Route 53. Once the DNS is propagated, you can visit your documentation website through your own domain. Now, here's a trick. If you're okay with making your documentations publicly accessible, there's actually a way to do it for free, and that is to use GitHub pages. I did that for my personal project, which you can check out using the link on the slide. So now we have our framework in place. It's time to get everyone else on board. First, what we did was we presented to the company about this new tech. But we expected low initial buy-in, so we invest more time by hosting multiple hands-on sessions, which had strong interest, thankfully. We even set up Slack channels so users can reach out to us for help and support. All this effort we put into place is coming from the data engineering team to support the data analysts to be more efficient with their flow. And with this effort, we slowly and surely see a gradual pickup in dbt usage by the analytics team. And now our analytics is transformed. Previously, data science would throw us SQL code, the data engineer SQL code, and we will have to run them ad hoc. Right now, there's a more collaborative platform where we can share the ownership of the code that we work on. We used to have disorganized code. Well, we still do have some of it, but with Git integration and version control, we have all our code in one tidy place. The messy and complicated code now no longer gives us nightmares because dbt helps us with their clear model structure, and it allows us to visualize its lineage. We reduce a lot of repetitive code by converting them into models and macros in dbt. Plus, now that we have a slick documentation website that is automatically generated for us. Lastly, we previously lacked a proper framework. Now, dbt has become our entire analytics engineering workflow. So I hope that this sharing has somewhat convinced you that dbt can help transform the way that you do your analytics as it did ours. But, you're too busy with your daily tasks. You think it would be time consuming to migrate, or you're afraid of the steep learning curve. You're not convinced it's easy to get started. I hear you. I know the journey can be tough, but it's not as bad as you think. When I was told about, or when I heard about dbt mid last year, I had the same hesitation. Remember this slide? As our first step, we migrated this 500-line code to a dbt project in less than a day. So if you're not convinced, then try it out for yourself and see how easy it is to get started by using the official dbt tutorial. All you need to do is to git clone the official repository, have Python 3.6 and above installed, and the database ready. In fact, I'll show you how easy it is in less than 2 minutes. Following the tutorial, first open up your command line and install dbt using pip. Then, set up the database connection. dbt uses YAML to store the connection details as shown, so it's quite straightforward. Then, test the database connection using a simple command called dbt debug. Looks like the connection is good. Finally, we can upload CSV files to the database using dbt-c. And that's it. The setup is complete and you have some data on your database to work. Now, it's time to materialize the transformative logic using the simple command called dbt run. dbt will display its progress quite clearly in the CLI. And once this step completes, you should have a transform table in the database. Now let's get some documentations for your project, again with simple and intuitive commands. dbt will output a static website, and you can even use dbt to host it locally. Just click on the link that dbt shows, and there you have it. It's so easy to get started. Go ahead and explore the website. I think the best way to learn is to learn by doing. Hopefully, you're pumped and excited to try it out for yourself. But one more thing. There are other awesome features that dbt has, but I don't have the time to share with you today. Here's a list of them with links attached. Maybe after this event, the Data Council people will share with you the slides, and you can go check it out at your own time. Also, here are some great resources which has helped me along the way. Lastly, do join the dbt Slack community. They have awesome people there with very useful sharings and great support. It's very friendly for those new to DBT as well as existing users. That's it. No more surprises from me, and it's time for Q&A. So I hope you've enjoyed the presentation.
Thanks, VK, for that great presentation.
Thank you. So how are we going to do the Q&A? Oh, right. Live
Waiting
comments.
for
Yeah.
questions to come in.
So if you have any questions for BK,
There are just a lot of fanboys and fangirls. Okay, we have one. Does DBT come with
Okay, so here
orchestration
we have one.
features?
Okay, so I'll read out the question, all right?
Yeah.
So does DBT come in with an orchestration feature? I've heard commercial DBT cloud offers orchestration. It will be interesting to hear pros and cons versus pairing with Airflow. So that's a great question, Chang Yi. As far as I understand, DBT Cloud, yes, is a commercial solution that provides orchestration on their end. I did not spend too much time on it because we in-house have already used Airflow and we don't need any we don't need to use any commercial products. So I would say that obviously using commercial products, you outsource the management to the third-party provider. So you got to pay for it. But for us in MoneyLion, we manage our own Airflow. The beginning of everything is always the learning curve, right? So it was not that bad to set up Airflow, and maintenance has been pretty decent so far. We have our own SRE team, so that helps a lot. But I would say that, yeah, there's actually lots of other tools out there, like I think it is called Perfect or even Luigi that you can use for orchestration. But we are a big proponent of Airflow because of its UI and ease and support online. The community is pretty big as well. So yeah, I would say that if you're willing to pay, yeah, go for DBT Cloud. But if you know your stuff, you want to try out Airflow, go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another question here from Marcus Knight says, how much does it cost?
Okay. Yeah, so great question. Right now, the core of DBT is open source, so you can use it for free. But DBT, again, they have their own cloud service, which they will provide, they will service your whole DBT project and even provide you an orchestration feature. So if you're willing to pay, you can outsource it to them, but it is free for you to actually use, as I've shown so far. And I would say that whatever that's available at the moment is pretty powerful as it is. So I do hope that the DBT DBT team would actually maintain the open source. I understand they've recently got funded, so congratulations to them. But let's hope that things grow and the open source community continues to grow as well. So I can use it for free.
Any more questions? Marcus says thanks.
Sure. Thanks for your
Um,
questions.
Yeah, okay.
There are
Here's one. Yeah.
So great question. So the question is, which teams in MoneyLion use DBT? Only data science? So at first, the whole, as you can see, the presentation is kind of catered for data science. And yes, on the originally it was catered for the data science team, and actually to alleviate a lot of headaches on the data engineering team. So that is true for at the beginning. However, right now I have a colleague with me, Ming Sin, who is also part of the data council community. She's actually helping out another division in our company, a production division, to use DBT for their production application. So yeah, it's not just restricted to data science. You can use it for production environment as long as you're comfortable with it. And it is basically that flexible. You're not restricted to just data science. I hope that kind of answers the question.
I think it did. Another question from Muthu Raman Shamugam.
So the question is, I'm a data analyst, but in my organization, we as data analysts build our own small task data pipelines on Git with Airflow. And we use Elation for our schema and data dictionary. What's the difference between Elation and DBT? I can't speak for Elation because I haven't really explored it too much. However, I would say that as I presented to you, DBT allows you to centralize all your knowledge as well as along with the code, including testing, all under one roof. So unless Elation can also do that, I would say that DBT offers quite a lot of features which centralizes everything. And as I mentioned to you, it becomes like the entire analytical workflow. So and it also incorporates with Airflow as I've shown previously. So it kind of works like how you're using Elation, but I'm not so sure how Elation does their integration between the Git code, the SQL query, and the data dictionary. So sorry, I can't comment much on it, but it's definitely something I might want to look into after this. So yeah.
Another question from Sarah.
Hey,
Good
Sarah.
question.
Familiar friend. So how's the learning curve for DBT? How's the learning curve of DBT for the data engineers? And how long did it take to adopt this solution to the team? So if I haven't made it clear previously, I'm sorry, but as I mentioned to you in the earlier slides, this migration that we first did took us about a day. So there was some learning curve. You have to read the manual, obviously, but doing the official tutorial really helped kickstart a lot of understanding. That is why I was advocating for you to take your own first steps, to try it out yourself and see how easy it is to get started. So in my point of view, I would say the learning curve is there, but it's not as bad as you think. So we started using DBT towards the end of last year, and we ramped up production of DBT for our other teams, I think in February. So right now we have 4 projects using DBT, and it's actually growing. I think 2 more is coming on board as well. So yeah, it's the learning curve is there. Everything has a learning curve, but I would say it's not as bad as you think.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's another question.
Hi, Alias. Yeah, so the other competitors to DBT. So that is a good question. Unfortunately, I haven't really done too much research into it because when I first saw DBT, and I was a little bit convinced at its potential, and when I dived straight into it, I was kind of sold. So I didn't spend too much time looking at the competitors because the way that DBT does it suits our use case pretty well. So I would probably draw the comparison with Elation that previously was raised. However, I can't really speak too much on the competitors here. So I think a Google search would actually suffice for that. But yeah, can't speak too much on that.
All right.
Next question.
Cool. Another question here.
Yeah.
From Yong Chang-yi.
Oh, Chang-yi, hey. So DBT support for testing is interesting. Does it also support the use case of schema registry to validate events? That's quite an interesting question. I don't think I have much of an experience with this particular use case, so I can't really speak too much to it. Right. Oh, right. You have clarified by events. I mean custom track data from client applications, i.e. clickstream data. Right. So as I showed you previously, you actually have to manually define the data dictionary and hence the schema of the tables. So it doesn't automatically formulate the data dictionary, unfortunately, maybe not yet. So but I think your question is more of whether it validates those the data types that the events comes in. Yes, in a way, you can actually run those testings on to validate the data type, whether the events conform to the defined schema that you have. Sorry, I got to take my comment back there. I don't believe DBT has any column type verification feature yet, and I say yet. So I would say no to your question. Sorry for being roundabout about this, but I would say no for your question. Yeah. Next question.
Okay, we have another one.
Yeah.
From Marcus.
Okay. So Marcus asks, do you know if DBT can be installed in EMR H nodes? I don't know that. I haven't tried it. We use EC2 instances because our use case is simple. You just need to have Python 3.6 installed and pip install DBT. So unless you need to do more complicated things, I think that suffice.
Okay.
And next question. Or do we have time?
Well, I think we have time for maybe one more question.
Sure.
One last question for tonight. Let's see. Anything interesting in YouTube comments? Yeah, feel free to post your questions up. I'll highlight them.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I have a comment here from Ishar of Firdaus. Yeah, he mentioned that same here, people like us encounter more code phobia people making many tools. However easy it is to use for us, it looks scary for them. I think I can add to that as well. I totally agree. That is why, as data engineers, we try to be as helpful as we can to the data scientists because the data scientists are goal orientated, whereas the data engineers are more process orientated. So we try to meet in the middle. That's why we offer a lot of we offer a lot of time and help to them whenever they need them to make sure that they're not scared to try it out. So we encourage them as well, and that's why we host multiple tutorial sessions and are always available for support through the Slack channels. So yeah, we as data engineers do play a big role in helping them move to this data workflow. So yeah, that's my comment on that.
Yeah, it shows the importance of having like a properly well-rounded data science team, right? You need to have your data engineers, your data analysts, data scientists. You can't be too overweight in one area.
Alex, I couldn't agree more.
Okay,
I do
so
like throwing SQL with data engineers though as a data scientist. So when you said like ownership, I was like, yay, but throwing SQL scripts was so fun. Sorry guys.
I see.
Okay. So
okay.
we can Okay. So we've reached the end of the session. Thanks again, BK, for sharing. Quick shout out to the makers of DBT who are joining this stream from the States. So exciting to have you guys here. Thanks for creating this awesome tool. So once again, don't forget to fill in the feedback form. I hope to see you guys in 5 minutes for our post-event hangout. Zoom link will be below. Slides will be posted on the Meetup group. So thank you all again for joining the stream. Thank you so much, BK, for sharing this awesome tool. And we look forward to seeing you at the next one. So stay safe, everyone. See you later.